certificate. React Miami was like the most recent conference I spoke at. So I try to stay local with like all these events, but sometimes I also travel internationally. And enough about me. So welcome to OrlandoJS. We are like a small uh, branch, I guess you should call it, of Orlando Devs, and we're grateful for them to let us host events like this. If you haven't already, scan this QR code really quick, answer some questions that we have for you so that we can understand better what to offer in these meetups. And we want to hear what you have to say. So thank you for those of you that have filled it out. Orlando Devs is a nonprofit 501c or 501c 3C. There we go. Nonprofit in Orlando to help the developers and software engineers get together to network, communicate, find jobs, and even make friends. So that's their mission. So thanks to them, they let us host events like this with the JavaScript community. If you haven't already, join the Slack. This is where you find all the up-to-date information of events. QR code. There's also job listings. Plenty of things to do on this Slack. Just join the Slack if you haven't already. The next event that I see on the calendar on this Slack and on Eventbrite is the Hacktoberfest. So if you haven't registered already or if you are interested, please go visit the Eventbrite for ODevs or even OrlandoDevs.com and sign up because it's going to be super fun. It's September 17th at 7 p.m. here in this building at Credo Conduit. Job postings. You can find it on the OrlandoDevs.com website. This is just companies that there's just some jobs that are available that you can find on there, but there's more detailed information about each company and each position if you just go on OrlandoDevs.com. And our sponsors for Orlando Devs, thanks to them, and the Patreons of independent people who do donate to events, or they donate to the nonprofit so we can have events like this and serve you sushi. And in the survey, by the way, you can vote on the next meetup type of food. So last month, they voted for sushi. We had sushi this month. This month, pizza seems to be pretty popular. So maybe in September, we'll serve pizza. All right, that's it. I came to one of these events years ago, and I decided, okay, I need to talk to Brian, who's actually the main Orlando Devs organizer and the speaker that we have for today. And he was like, you should join and volunteer with this QR code. So I joined the QR code, and now I organize these JavaScript events, which is super fun. And if you're interested in doing anything like that, please contact me. Hello? Hello?
It's gone.
Okay, I can hear myself. Contact me or go on the QR code and like fill out this short little form, and then we'll contact you to figure out what we can do to, get you up here. That's it. Thank you so much. So to start this night off, we have Brian Rinaldi, who works at
Local Stack. Don't worry, I'll introduce it. Where's the
introduction for you?
Where's the HDMI?
Oh, right, it's connected to my computer.
Okay, okay, cool.
All right, sorry, dude. I apologize. I didn't realize I was like looking for the cable and I touched the wrong thing.
But your screen, you stop screen sharing also.
I got a screen share again.
Yeah, it's not from the show.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you go to sleep or something?
It went to sleep. Yes. All right. Tell me if I need to. It says it's screen sharing.
Try like refresh it or something. Like refresh that page essentially.
Yeah. Okay. I'll do that. There.
No,
wait. Hold on. I didn't. Hold on. I'm gonna do entire screen. We're doing this screen. Let's see. Looks like. Yes, all right. Let's see. Existing. There we go. This little button is sensitive apparently. Hey y'all. Sorry, I managed to like mess everything up for our live stream. So by breathing on the cable. So yeah. So anyway, I'm here to talk to you all about Astro, and I will just get started. So Jenny already kind of gave me an intro, but I lead developer relations at a startup named LocalStack. I'll tell you a little bit more about them in a moment. But also, I run a bunch of online meetups via a site called cfe.dev. So if you're ever looking for like something, like we run meetups virtually, so you'll see me post about them in Slack and stuff like that, and virtual conferences, all free. Also, and president of OrlandoJS. So I run the OrlandoJS meetup, like the main meetup. As you know, like we're having a Hacktoberfest coming up. We also have a hackathon coming up in November that I'm really excited about. So that should be, look for news about that. We got a lot of really great events coming up this fall. We even have an event this Thursday, if you're interested. It's purely social event. We're just going to meet up at Stardust, if you know where that is, over in Audubon Park. Cute little place, and we're just going to have. It's not. There's no speakers or anything. It's just a networking meetup. We're gonna have drinks if you want drinks, or the food. Just kind of hang out and meet other developers. So no talks or anything. It's just very casual. So that's on Thursday evening at 7 if you want to join us. So before I get started about Astro, just real quick, I do work for a company named LocalStack. If you haven't heard of LocalStack, any of you do any AWS development at all? Okay, yeah, some people. Okay, if you do AWS development, LocalStack is basically a drop-in replacement to run your AWS test, like build against and everything, AWS locally. So you can actually like build your lambdas and all the other pieces, and you can test it locally before you even push it to cloud. So you don't have to like run cloud environments for AWS, which can be complicated and expensive. So anyway, check us out. If you do any AWS, or if you don't know AWS, it's actually a great tool for learning AWS because you don't have to actually run anything in the cloud. You can all run it locally and learn how to build things in AWS. So anyway, that is it about that. I won't talk about LocalStack anymore. If you want to know more, you can talk to me after. So I am going to talk about Astro. But before I talk about Astro, I want first to kind of just talk about JavaScript. Obviously, we're at a JavaScript meetup, and I'm not meaning to rag on JavaScript or anything, but so going all the way back to like 2018 or so, somebody named Adi Osmani, if you haven't heard of Adi Osmani, really big name speaker in the web development community. I think he still works for Google and everything. So he's written about JavaScript and talked about the cost of JavaScript. He has a talk about like the cost of the different pieces of your site and the cost of JavaScript every single year. And JavaScript remains the most expensive part of your site. Now you may be thinking like, okay, my site has big images and videos and all this other things, but the thing you have to think about is that JavaScript isn't just about the weight of the JavaScript, it's about the processing of the JavaScript. And so It's not just how much JavaScript you download. All that JavaScript you download needs to actually get processed, and that adds to the cost of JavaScript. So, and that weight keeps growing. It's been growing every single year. According to Web Almanac, which the latest one is has only data up till 2022. So that's the data I'm using here. But according to Web Almanac, it grew another 8% from 2021 to 2022. While that's a smaller increase than in prior years, it's actually, we're still kind of ever expanding the amount of JavaScript we're forcing our people to download on when they go to our sites. And the thing you have to think about is this isn't just about hey, my laptop got more powerful. I have the latest Mac and everything, but people around the world are running a lot of these sites on low-powered devices, particularly mobile phones, that have a lot of trouble processing that JavaScript. It's going to be really, really slow. So this is a distribution of the JavaScript size in sites that Web Almanac surveyed for their report. And so you can see at that high end there, actually kind of shocking to me, the high end sites are loading about 1.5 megabytes of JavaScript, which is kind of crazy. And I would suspect that, by the way, the people loading 1.5 megabytes of JavaScript to run a page actually have a lot of blocking scripts and things like that, so it's going to probably be not very performant. Obviously, those are the kind of worst offenders, but you can see it's actually fairly large across the board. And the sadder part, is that a lot of this JavaScript is unused. So you're loading all this JavaScript down in your 1.5 megabytes of JavaScript, and it's never being used, right? So it serves absolutely no purpose. Actually, if you look at some of the data here, again from the Web Almanac, you can see that sites are sending as much as 645 kilobytes of completely unused JavaScript, if you can imagine. That JavaScript is being downloaded, it's, and everything, and it's never being used. Part of this, by the way, if you know, actually Chris would know painfully, that a lot of this is actually third-party scripts being downloaded. So it's not actually a full application but there's a lot of third-party scripts are kind of contributing to that, and we end up loading way too many third-party scripts. So that's unused JavaScript. But I'm going to add a category that I totally made up, which I'm going to call unnecessary JavaScript. And this is JavaScript this is basically JavaScript that is actually being used, but isn't even needed. You could do what you're doing without JavaScript and get better performance, but we're throwing JavaScript at problems that we don't need to throw JavaScript at. So, I'm going to kind of go a little bit on the soapbox here, but as an example, and nothing against React. I like React, sort of, but we use React for a lot of things we didn't need to use React for. And not just React, but a bunch of JavaScript libraries that we threw at problems that didn't need to be solved by JavaScript. Okay, so I'm going to pick on a particular example that I always find amazing, and which is that think about it's not as popular anymore, but it's a static site generator like Gatsby. Okay, I've seen how many different sites that were blogs or documentation sites that have thrown Gatsby, or even to DocuSource does the same thing, by the way. And you're running the entirety of React to show a static content web page that has zero interactivity. So the point is, that to me is what is kind of like the kind of perfect example of what I would call unnecessary JavaScript. Threw a ton of JavaScript at a problem that didn't need JavaScript. So, have any of you read this article by Alice Russell, Mark Philemons? No. Okay. It's really, really good. He also did a presentation for one of my events on this exact topic as well. But I really recommend reading it. It's long, as all Alex Russell's blog posts are, very long. It's a little, I'd say, sometimes he can be a little, how do I say it? He likes to pick fights, and his online persona picks fights, which, like, he's actually, when I talked with him, not at all like that when he presents or in person. But he's a little kind of, he likes to pick some battles online. But anyway, this is a really great post, though, that dives really, really deeply into the history of how developers, like in his argument, were sold on stacks that were built upon layers and layers of JavaScript that was completely unnecessary, and how that's actually hurting the performance of applications. And while you may kind of disagree with some of his rhetoric, he throws a lot of evidence that I think is worth considering. And and you can say, oh, I don't buy Alex Russell's argument. It's hard to read this, but this is from the latest state of JavaScript. And the thing is that it's not just him. Frameworks and all these other tools have realized this is a problem we need to solve. And the good news is that they are starting to think about solving it. And it's not just Astro, as we'll see in a moment, but other tools are also doing this, like Quick and SolidJS are examples of other frameworks that are trying to reduce the amount of JavaScript. Svelte does this as well. So this is not just the problem that they're trying to solve. In fact, if you look at React Server Pages has been an answer to from the React team to solving the problem of client-side loading of all this, client-side rendering of all this stuff using JavaScript, whereby now you're doing this on server. So it's kind of all an answer to some of these issues that we've been running into because we keep throwing JavaScript at problems. So if we know this is a problem, I think why are developers hesitant to move? And there's a bit of inertia that you fight against because everybody's doing React. All the companies are like, hey, you're only hiring React developers or Angular or whatever, mostly React though. But it's also difficult for as your developer to abandon the tools you've become accustomed to. Especially a lot of people have learned web development via React. A lot of people have gotten used to the tools in the whole ecosystem, whatever ecosystem they're in. And so there's this really steep learning curve to say, I'm going to move to this whole new framework and have to learn not only the framework, but switch all my tools, rewrite all my code, et cetera, et cetera. So it can be hard to do that. So I know that was a long intro. That's those movies that just have this, and you're like, okay, at some point they might actually show some credits. Cool. Credits. Okay. The opening credits. Here we go. So that was my long intro into why you should care about Astro, because all of these things are a big impetus behind why they created Astro. So if you look at this chart, this is basically, just keeping in mind, this is created by the Astro team. It shows Astro sites having the lowest median kilobytes and highest percentage of JavaScript and highest percentage of sites that pass Core Web Vitals. And it's kind of even lower than tools like SvelteKit and Remix and other frameworks that are trying to solve similar problems to Astro. And this is from I don't think they've done a newer one. This is from the 2023 Web Framework Performance Report. So it gets into a lot of the details of how they came to those numbers. One thing I want you to consider, though, because I'm not trying to pick on all these other frameworks, I do think Astro is great, is that Astro, at the time they did this, Astro had very small sample size compared to other tools. So you have to take that into account. There's, how many millions of websites built with Next.js versus maybe a few thousand at the time built with Astro. So it's not really a fair comparison completely, and they somewhat acknowledged that at the time. But I do think it kind of gets at their core philosophy of trying to help you reduce the JavaScript in your applications. So an Astro site by default ships 0 kilobytes of JavaScript. So I know you're thinking like, okay, I guess most sites can't actually function on 0 kilobytes of JavaScript, but by default you can do that. And in fact, the example site I'm going to show you ships 0 kilobytes of JavaScript. I'm doing so it's a fully functional like demo app, obviously not really deep, but it's all done with zero JavaScript. But you can, obviously you can include JavaScript, and I'll get to that. The point is that the philosophy of Astro is to kind of start you from a base of 0, and you selectively add in JavaScript as necessary. So the main way that they do that is via something called islands. Has anybody heard of islands architecture before? A couple people. Okay, I'll give you a little bit about. Don't worry, we'll go into it. So it's a relatively new concept. I think the term was only coined back in like 2019. So it was a couple of years before Astro was initially released. You'll generally hear it called islands or islands architecture or component islands. Those are all kind of similar terms for the same thing. As the name kind of implies, it's designed to create these islands of interactivity on your page within an otherwise straight HTML output. So if you think in comparison, well, I'll show you a little bit more about this, but if you think in comparison to like your React app, everything is interactive by default. The whole thing is built with JavaScript and renders with JavaScript. In this case, you would have most of the page rendering as HTML and only your interactive elements rendering with JavaScript. So it means that instead of including the full framework in every single page, you're actually only including the JavaScript necessary to run the components that are interactive. So this is kind of like a comparison of different types of rendering here. I didn't actually create this, so like just, but it's a good illustration of basically server-side rendering, partial hydration, and islands architecture. So in SSR, all the components are rendered and hydrated together. In progressive hydration, the components are rendered together, but critical components are hydrated first, after which other components are progressively hydrated. In both cases, though, the scripts to do all the rendering, to hydrate all the rendered components, and granted, I will admit this, I don't know if this takes into account React server components or how they work, so I'll admit that the server-side rendering on React server components might be different. But in both cases, the script required to render all the components is already, to hydrate all the components is already loaded, right? But in the islands diagram, only the components marked as interactive will actually get the necessary JavaScript to hydrate. Everybody know what hydration means? Anybody not know what hydration is? Okay, seems like we do. I figured JavaScript crowd, but you never know. I hate using terms that sometimes people understand. So this is kind of a simpler example that I think helps illustrate a little bit better. This is kind of like your standard content page where you'd have like static content and tags, a sidebar that's pretty much static, footer that's static, and then you'd have this interactive header and an image carousel over there. And those would be, as you can see, those are the interactive islands. So only the JavaScript necessary to run that header, like maybe there's a login button in there and stuff like that, or the JavaScript necessary to run that image carousel is loaded. Everything else is actually served up as static HTML and doesn't actually load any JavaScript. So how does that work? And I will go into the example application, but just to kind of give you a broader sense. So this would be like an example of hydrating an island. In this example, so one of the things I want to point out is that you can use, so I said that it's hard to kind of transition tools. We can use React components in Astro. You can use Vue components in Astro, Svelte components, I think even Quick and all those other frameworks. You can use all of those things. If that's the framework you're using, you can bring those in. So in this case, I'm actually using 2 different components. This is actually from their documentation, just modified a little bit. One is an Astro component. We'll talk about what those are later to kind of give you a sense of their own component. And then a React component. So in this scenario, the React component that we're loading, we're telling it to load. We need to load client. So in that inside, sorry, and it shouldn't say let load 0.js. that will load JavaScript. The React component itself will load JavaScript. So like inside that component, it will load whatever JavaScript is necessary to. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You can leave it. You can leave it. Yeah, whatever JavaScript is necessary to run that React component, because we're telling it. Basically, there's different directives to tell it when to load the JavaScript and so on. So we'll kind of cover that in a second, actually. So these are the different hydration directives. So like you can say like something is a high priority, a medium priority. You know, only load the JavaScript when visible. So it's a low priority. Only load the JavaScript on certain screen sizes, which is that media one. And then the only is like skip server rendering entirely and just load via JavaScript. So that would be like the equivalent of your client-side, full client-side rendering. So you can kind of supply these directives to each of the components you load, and that will determine how it loads the JavaScript necessary to render that component. The one thing that kind of keep in mind, if you don't put the directive, it will actually load 0 JavaScript. So like sometimes when you're early kind of developing with Astro, you tend to kind of, you'll load in a component and you'll be like, why is this component not working? It's not doing what it's supposed to do. It's, you know, that the button's not working or this isn't working. Is because you haven't actually loaded any JavaScript because you haven't put a directive to tell it to load the JavaScript in. By default, it will, even if there's JavaScript in that component, it'll wipe. It won't send it unless you tell it to. And one thing I want to add here, because we're talking about islands, before I kind of move on, is that there is in recent Astro, this is actually as of I think the last version, they actually added something called basically server-side islands. So it's experimental right now, but basically you can have the page render and then it'll kind of lazy load that component by server rendering that one component. So it's different. In this case, we're talking about islands that are fully client rendered. In that case, you're actually going to, it will kind of postpone rendering that component and render it on the server. So serve up the rest of the page and then call out to fill that component in. I haven't tried that yet, but I think it's really cool. Well, I think it would be cool. I don't know if it's cool. So, all right. As I mentioned, you can create components with pretty much any other framework. You can even do, like as in this example, I've got a React component, a Svelte component, and a Vue component all rendering on the same page. This is not a strategy I would recommend, but you could do.
It could work for partial migrations and stuff. You're trying to change frameworks. It could be useful for partial migrations.
Yes, I think I think that, you know.
You wouldn't use on a new project, but for legacy stuff, it could be very useful.
Yeah, it could be. If you're trying to migrate off, like if you're, say, Angular and you want to move to a different component framework, yes, you could do that. But it wouldn't. It's just generally not a strategy that's easy to maintain long term. But you can do it. Astro also has its own components, which are called Astro components. The one thing to kind of keep in mind is that Astro components, basically, you can. It's generally for like HTML only components. You can actually import JavaScript, like if you just have a script tag, and you can tell it to like actually load that JavaScript and so on. So you can do a little bit of interactivity with JavaScript in here, but it's kind of like plain old JavaScript. So, this is kind of your typical Astro component. One of the cool things is you see like the top is your kind of typical front matter. If any of you have Markdown or anything like that, you kind of put these the little 3 dashes there, kind of put your front matter. In that front matter, I can actually put JavaScript. That's even on Markdown files and things like that. I can throw JavaScript in there and it'll actually run that JavaScript on the page. So in this case, like I have I'm loading in some data and all this other stuff and populating the different data that will actually render in this page on the server. But I'm doing that all kind of in this front matter section in the component. So what kind of sites would you want to build with Astro? I think their marketing and everything says that Astro was designed for building content-rich websites. So they even have a docs framework called Starlight, and they have always kind of pushed as this is for content heavy sites as opposed to like your very interactive applications. I think to some degree that's still true. They've added a lot of features that I think makes it like you could just build anything with Astro. Literally you can. But you know, if say you're like building a dashboard that has lots of interactive elements and everything, it might not be the best tool for the job because you're always going to have to be like kind of giving client directives to all the different pieces and things like that. Whereas like a tool like Next.js kind of would make it more straightforward to build something like that. But if you're building a site that's a little more content rich, Astro is a great solution. So some other features of Astro is kind of like what you typically would expect. It's got file-based routing. So like if the pages directory is where you throw all of your pages, obviously. So like pages.about would be /about, pages, and then there's this blog, and then I'm kind of putting that, I forget what you call that kind of, a dynamic route, right? So with a post, where I pass in the post detail, and it would actually render out all the different posts. So like say if I have a blog, right, with all these different posts that are in Markdown, and we'll render those out loud with that dynamic URL. Then you can have like the same thing in you can actually have dynamic routes in your API routes, and you can have catch-all routes like that path would be a catch-all for anything under there. So you know you can do all those things. If you've done any kind of work in things like Next.js or anything like that, that's pretty much standard. You're probably used to it. It's not really that different from it. But one thing that is different is this is not a single page application framework. They call it a MPA because we need more acronyms. And so like that's a multi-page application framework. Basically all of those pages render independently. You're not going into kind of your shell and then client-side routing through all the different pages. And you actually go to make another request, get the next page. Does that make sense? So it's not like if you're used to Next.js where most of the routing there is going to be done client side. This is all like basically server side routing. So that's kind of the key difference between an MPA and a SPA. The other thing in terms of rendering is that when Astro started, I forget when they released it. It was basically static only, and now you can do static. So basically, you can do any kind of server-side rendering, right? Because static site generation is basically server-side rendering done at build time, or you can do regular SSR like you're used to. So that's done at request time. The thing you'll have to think about is for things like SSR, running depending on which platform you want to deploy to, they have adapters that you have to load in. Pretty straightforward, not very complicated, but they don't like include, say, like if you want to deploy it to Netlify, you have to add the Netlify adapter. Same with Cloudflare, Vercel, etc. So you have to add that adapter to be able to run it there, so that it actually won't do your server-side rendering as you expect, and so on. So who's using Astro? This is fun because I did this presentation a while ago. I was updating it, and it's changed so much. Back then, I actually said this slide. I was like, not that many people are using Astro yet, as far as companies that you recognize, but that's not true anymore. You might have heard of Google and Microsoft. They're kind of, they're kind of known, and all those other companies.
Startups.
Yeah, they're all small little startups, exactly. So the number of companies that are using Astro on some level or another doesn't mean that their main website is built with Astro. It just means they are building some sites with Astro.
Microsoft is saying they're removing React from Edge. They're using for certain parts of their your dashboard or something. Maybe they're moving to Astro.
Could be. I think Microsoft uses it for some documentation sites or something. I'm not entirely sure. In a lot of cases, I think that's the case. Like I've seen a lot of these are documentation sites, marketing sites, etc. So like your content-heavy sites. But they are using it, and that's different than say like when I did this presentation like 8 months ago. There was hardly any companies you'd recognize that were using it. Now it's like the list. this is just a handful that I grabbed. The list is pretty large. But the more important thing is I expect that to grow, because this is actually from the latest State of JavaScript survey, shows that developer interest in Astro is extremely high. It's actually highest of all of the meta frameworks category that they have. So it's above, all of it, like it's above Next.js, Remix, Nux, Solid, all that stuff. This is interest. It's not use, interest, right? But still, it shows that like developers are really interested in using Astro and probably going to give it a shot soon. And then the other thing, this is kind of like if you want to predict where's the framework going to be next year, use these two measures. Another measure would be how happy are people who've used it. And you can see, once again, Astro kind of tops the list. So not only are developers interested in using it, but the people who have used it are really, really happy using it, which would probably mean next year it's going to be even bigger. So I expect it to continue to grow. So that's it for the talk portion. I do have some demo stuff that I'm going to try and show you here. Unfortunately, the way I've got this set up, it's a bit of a pain. I have to kind of stop mirroring here.
Is there a place that we can see that graph we have?
That's State of JavaScript survey. So just look up State of JS. Yeah. So I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna mirror. Hopefully this doesn't mess up the screen share.
I hear you.
Good. Okay. All right. So why is this not? Let's do that. I'm gonna actually hold on. Sorry. Trying to do this while maybe I'll sit down, so it might be easier. You all can hear me just fine. It's easier for me to type because I gotta hold this microphone because I don't talk that loud. Okay. Might need space there. Yeah, right there. Okay, I'm gonna start my little site. I can show you what it is. All right, here we go. Why is that not loading? There we go. Okay, so I built this little. I kind of like Jenny and David. I speak at a lot of events and stuff like that. So like I was submitting a bunch of CFDs, and I was like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have like a little tool to track the conferences that I want to submit to, and the ones I submitted to, and then and see which ones I was accepted at, and so on and so forth. Because I'm always like, when I submit, I have to go looking through my notes to find like the different abstracts I've come up with, and so on and so forth. So I was like, oh, I'll make up like a little tool. But I'm actually going to do something real here. Hold on one second. Because I want to show you a couple things. Oh, I got it. Don't worry. Yeah. I got it. Don't worry. I appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna start this over because I was testing this earlier and I logged in and everything. So I'm gonna log out. I don't have a log out button. Sorry. Oops. So I'm gonna go ahead and just delete the cookies and start. So the way I built this was I have a login. This login is using something called Stitch. I don't know if you all have ever heard of it. There's 1,000 different solutions. I actually have multiple versions of this implemented with different tools for handling the authentication. I liked Stitch because it allowed me to do the magic link stuff. And some of the other ones were not as good about that. So I'm going to just go ahead just to kind of show you how it all works. So I'm going to log in. The other thing to note here is that I also use something called, if any of you have heard of AppWrite, I used AppWrite for the backend, because at the time that I wrote this, Astro didn't have their Astro DB. Now they have Astro DB, and so basically I could have used their Astro DB, which has like a generous free account, so like to do all the persistence. I didn't do that because it didn't exist at the time, but it exists now, and I might recommend doing it. So if I disconnect this, I'm gonna have to reshare because I have to go to my.
Well, I'm doing the camera now, so
You're only doing the camera?
Yeah, it's easy face right now.
Okay. because I just don't want to share my email. Sorry about that. So we're gonna disconnect. Get my little link.
How are you gonna send our band?
Huh?
How are you gonna send our band?
Yeah. All right. Let's go back here. Sorry. I'll plug this back in. It's just the quickest way to do that. Hopefully this doesn't mess anything up. All right. Give it a second. Come on. See, I like to break these things. I broke your camera earlier. Okay, there we go. We're back. All right. Cool. So I'm gonna, in this case, it would send me a URL that I can click here. It's gonna log me in. So that's the magic link login. So I don't actually have a password or anything. It's passwordless and all that other stuff. So like that's why I liked Stitch. It was actually pretty easy to implement. I did one with Cognito, not recommended, even though I do a lot of AWS stuff. I did one with, actually, AppRite had their own authentication tool. Wasn't bad. It was in early days, so like it really wasn't that great either. So the gist of this application is I can like kind of go in here. I can see submissions. I can say that this would be a link if I hadn't been accepted yet. So I could say, oh, I was accepted. Mark that one as accepted. I can add a new one in here. I've got a little form. So we'll just kind of go through. Just the point is to show you that all of this is a zero JavaScript application. So but it all works pretty nicely. Oh, not that nicely. It didn't save. Oh well. Demo gods. Anyway, you get the gist of it. I don't know why that didn't save, but maybe I hit something wrong. Oh, because I added a CFP. I didn't add a session. So, sorry, my bad. So if I go in here, actually, we'll see that CFP that I had test. Yeah, there we go. I was adding the wrong thing. I get lost in my own application. See, I'm not a designer, so as you might have noticed. So this is just basic Tailwind stuff. So I can add a new session here. This would be like my abstract. And it's again, everything you'd expect from like a simple little tool, like a notes tool or a to-do list kind of application. But I didn't want to make anything too complicated, but I kind of want to give you a sense of how all this works. Again, this one is zero JavaScript, so I didn't do any kind of directives or anything like that, just kind of show you what you can build with straight Astro. You have like, first of all, this one, there's different templates. They provide a bunch of templates. I went ahead and used like their Tailwind template that just kind of automatically includes Tailwind because you have to like kind of handle that as a plugin and things. So there's this configuration file, which in this case, you can see I'm adding like the Tailwind integrations. There's a whole bunch of integrations you can add into Astro that kind of enhance the capabilities, integrate with different other tools, etc. In this case, I'm just adding the Tailwind integration. The other thing I did here is that this entire application, since obviously all the pages are using kind of personalized data, I just said go ahead and render everything as a server. So it's not going to try and statically render any of my render everything, which honestly works fine. And in fact, they started life as a static only framework, and nowadays they actually generally recommend, like their recommendation is start server only. So do everything server rendered, unless you can, there's no reason necessarily to do it static. So the configuration is pretty basic. The only thing I modified other than was add this server, and I'm just kind of defining that port 3000 as my local server. By default, it uses like a different port that I don't want. So kind of go through, like, as I mentioned before, most of your pages, like all the routes, you're defined in this pages directory. So like this is my dynamic route for like all of these sessions. So when I clicked on session and I got that, I click here and I got this session based on this ID here. I could have used anything for that, but I just kind of sent the ID. That's what's being passed here to this route and determining what the URL is. You can see again here all the JavaScript like this is all running on the server again. All this JavaScript is running on the server that's kind of put inside these brackets, like the front matter of the page. And I've got the template, which is just kind of basic HTML with the enormously large Tailwind list of classes on each of the elements. You can see like I'm kind of using any data that I populate from here. I can use render on the page, kind of what you'd expect it to do. But it's pretty straightforward. In this case, I'm also checking like if you have the session ID already set in your cookies. If you don't have the session ID, I'm going to redirect you out. So that's just like to return a new response, and I'm rerouting you. Well, actually, in this case, I'm going to return a 404 if this session doesn't exist. In this case, if you, where is the redirect for? Well, actually, I'm not checking the login here. Just the redirect. So let's see. This is kind of the main index page. This one I am checking for a number of different cookies. So I'm checking like that you have your user ID and your stitch session set. And then I'm actually, if you come back with that stitch session in I'm going to go ahead and try and log you in with the stitch component I wrote. And then, this is kind of the basic authentication stuff and redirects and all this stuff. Again, there's nothing like particularly Astro-y about all of this, other than the fact that I'm doing a lot of this JavaScript, server-side JavaScript up in the front of the template here. The only things that are kind of Astro-specific are these kind of things that they provide. There's all kinds of tools that it provides, like Astro.cookies, Astro.redirect, are things that like it provides to do some basic kind of things you'd have to do in your application. So I'm kind of using those tools that are provided to me to be able to do some of that. And this one, again, is just like the basic form handling. There's not that much specific. I'm just checking the request method that I get from Astro. And if it's a post, I'm going to go ahead and like run through like kind of handling the form submission. This is not the most complex application again, but it all works, and it's all like server rendered. So it's really nice. There's no JavaScript. So in this case, I'm going to actually handle the post submission, or if there's no post submission, I'm going to get the session. So this is like if you want to update your session and stuff like that. The authentication is all, again, done via Stitch. This is just kind of like a page for handling the submission of getting the token from Stitch. So I basically pass it back to authenticate. This page will handle like setting all the cookies and all that stuff. So you can see I'm setting the cookies using Astro cookies, and then I'm redirecting you back to the home page once I've actually checked that your authentication went through with Stitch. And then in this case, this is where you do the form submission and I handle like actually sending you the magic key. Now, obviously, if you were doing like a more robust application, I might not throw all of this code in the actual root page, in the actual page code. You might put this in like a component or something, a library somewhere, as opposed to putting it here. But it is pretty easy. You can pretty much do anything you want server-side JavaScript in this little front matter area. And these are like different Astro components I'm using. I have like a login component. There's these properties that are passed down, like so I can get you can pass messages, properties down to components, kind of like you would in Next.js or any other framework, and I could just get them as Astro.props. So in this case, I'm getting like the message. If there's an issue with your login, I'll show you a message saying, hey, this didn't work, or something like that. And then this is just kind of like a card. This populates kind of on the home page, all these different like little CFP cards. If you had multiples of these, it would list multiples, obviously. And it's just, kind of same kind of thing. I'm passing the session data down in a property, and then I'm just rendering out all of that in the component. You can see here, and you can actually do JavaScript here, inside here. Like you can do kind of what you would expect from like a Next.js, but keeping in mind that this is all rendering on the server, it's not rendering on client side. So You know, and then you can have different layouts. So I can define in the metadata of a particular page or a markdown or anything like that. I can actually define different layouts, kind of like you would in typical static site generator. So like if I had this one, I'm only using that main layout, but I could have like different layouts and you could define those. So like you can actually use that in any kind of markdown as well as like in your components, like your Astro components and stuff like that. Again, pretty kind of basic application, but I think it shows how easy it is to build something. And in this case, build something that's entirely zero JavaScript and it's fully functional. So let me see if I can kind of, that's it for my application. Anybody have any questions about that? Or good. Any questions? Yeah.
I have a question. Anything has to happen on and all that?
Oh, yeah, I can get to that at the end. Anybody have any questions about the Astro stuff at this point? Yeah. Where, like as in different platforms? So they have. I don't remember the full list, but you can do Netlify, you can do Vercel, you can do Cloudflare. They even have one for AWS, but the AWS one is a little tricky because of stuff. AWS is always tricky. Again, love AWS, but it's tricky. So you can deploy all those. I don't remember which other, whatever they call them, the plugins to enable you. I think those are kind of the main ones. Was there one you were thinking of? Yeah, there's Vercel, Netlify, Vercel, Cloudflare, yeah, and AWS are the ones I know off the top of my head. Yeah.
I see the ending of it is .astro, but is there a way to use TypeScript in Astro files?
Yes, it's TypeScript by default, I believe. Yes, TypeScript by default. So .astro, like all the stuff in the front matter would be like you could use TypeScript right there. I didn't, but you can.
TypeScript comes in industry standard, which is good and bad.
Yeah, yeah. So you can use TypeScript in all of it. Yeah.
So what,
And just keeping in mind that I only used Astro components. I could have done that as React components. I could have done that as Vue components, but in this case, I didn't need any of the features of those things. So like I just used Astro components because it's all kind of simple server-side rendered application. But it could be any of those as well.
Is there any Astro hybrid mobile support? Any hybrid tooling?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
for the types, would you still make like a types.e.ts files, or would you make like, where would you put your interface if you want to just put your types, your interfaces?
Good question.
Just put them in TS files.
Yeah.
And sometimes we'll house them inside your component, which would be the Astro files.
Yeah.
Usually set in TS files.
Yeah, the config is usually in the root, and then I don't know what you can put. I think you can.
I guess like the main question is like whether like you would still put the convention of a .astro file, even though that file was just meant for putting in interfaces.
Yeah, so the .astro is like any like it's just like you would. Yeah, it's like a component file format, exactly. So in that case, the only thing that's going to be TypeScript is what's in that front matter there. Not obviously the rest is all rendered. It's all HTML or whatever component syntax is. In my case, it was .astro. Like you read in React, it would be what is it?
JSX, TSX.
JSX. Yeah. And then Astro component is just HTML. But yeah, it would be just be what's in that kind of between those brackets would be TypeScript.
I think React, for example, you would TSX file. I think often the one lets you do one export. If you have much interfaces you want to use their places, move the TS file. So like it's a component, like an Astro, you would usually move your interfaces to TS files.
Yeah. And actually, if you're using Astro like in VS Code, there's a plugin for it that helps with that, kind of helping you with kind of those components. So it understands like an Astro component and can help you code that as well.
I have a specific Astro question. It would be nice if you could show some, you know, like the static side first, any strategies on language translation routing.
I do believe they have internationalization. I've not like done any of it with it, but I
Sometimes
know
it's like better SEO for a static thing. You have to have like a separate page, like it's the English page, the Spanish page, like -SP or something. You know.
Yeah, I don't know what because I believe they do have. I'd have to check their docs, but I believe they do have an internationalization plugin, but I don't know the specifics of how it works. So yeah, sorry. Cool. Yeah.
So sorry, you write
Like,
actual server-side rendering,
Right.
Usually, more popular use case for server-side rendering for React, for example, is you use proxies. So rather than exposing your API calls for your backend is, you would have your node server do the backend calls. So like, or you have
But there's like API routes, right?
Yeah, there are API routes.
For
You
example,
can have
with
API
Force.
routes. I didn't use them in that particular example, but you can have API routes.
That's usually a better example of server-side rendering. Usually you're embedding your API on the core because the node server is getting that data. And so you might not even see AJAX calls sometimes depending on how they're being hit.
Yeah, even the example that I did, by the way, even though I put all that code inside the actual page, that's all happening on the server anyway. That's not being sent to the client at all. So like, I'm not exposing anything to them there at all. So yeah, that would, huh?
Caching the results, so like you just use, like before you had a weight cache, in the front end. So, how to control like how long before you validate.
Before the page review. In this case,
It's static by default, so is it static?
yeah, it's no longer static by default anymore. It's server-side rendering by default.
Server-side first.
Yeah, it used to be static by default. The first.
Visit, or can you tell them like, hey, only
Oh, you mean kind of like Next.js has some of those strategies? Good question. I think right now they don't. I don't think they support it. Well, actually, I take that back. They do. I think they do have some option for that. I just don't know that. I don't recall the specifics of it. What does Next.js call that again? Incremental static rendering, or I don't know if I have a version of that.
That's what's related to the hydration, really, their hydration strategies.
Still revalidate me?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, I believe they. I'm trying to remember now exactly what they did, but I don't think it's not something built into like that I recall being built into the framework, like just like a configuration you can do on the page. That says like
ISR.
Yeah. So, but don't quote me on that because I haven't tried to do ISR in.
Say Astro 4.0 introduces incremental content caching.
I don't think that's the same thing, but I'm not sure.
Sounds similar.
Yeah, we just need, then when they can call that ICC, ISR, DPR, all the different things, and we just need more acronyms. Yeah, so good question. I do not know exactly. I know on Netlify, for instance, you can do that. They have the ability to do that without on any framework. So you can run like basically ISR type caching on any framework. So you might be able to do that there, but I don't know if it's built into Astro at all.
That's probably because they built in CDNs handling a little bit.
Yeah. Well, they have like some new rules you can put like, in that allows you to do like ISR on basically using any tool in theory. I haven't tried it out. That's really recent, but yeah. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay. So this is where I'd recommend, if you want to get started, obviously you can go to astro.build, but like astro.new will allow you to like choose from a bunch of different templates, which makes it really easy to get started if you want to just kind of experiment. You create your blog or whatever. There's all kinds of different templates, community contributed templates, and all that kind of stuff to get started. So it makes it really easy. I'd recommend checking that out as a way to get going. If you wanted to see that code again, it's like, it's not too complicated, but it's on my GitHub under Astro demo stitch. There's also like an AppWrite example, and it's the same thing. I have kind of a few variations of this example. This one is the most complete. It's the one I'd recommend because it's like, I know it actually works. I updated it to new Astro because Astro releases pretty often, I will say. I think it's like every 3 weeks they release a new version or something like that. So it comes out with lots of stuff and they've been iterating really, really fast. So it's kind of hard to keep up, even though I love it, but it is moving quickly. And I'm obviously still here, you can ask me more questions, but if you decide you want to ask me questions later, that's my email. That's my wrong email. It should be brian.rinaldi, not brinaldi.rinaldi. I don't know what happened. This is me, like, I think pasting wrong. Sorry about that. Brian.rinaldi at localstack.cloud, or I'm on the Mastodon or Threads as well. Yeah.
This might be a newish question, but I've got my personal blog that I built into the site temporarily.
Yeah.
If I'm looking to move over to WordPress, I'm going to put a lot of blogs on, but I see they have the portfolio option here.
Yeah.
What would you recommend? What are your thoughts on those?
I mean, I like it, but keep in mind that like you're going to be maintaining the content in Markdown. So it's not like WordPress with your visual editor kind of thing.
Nice thing with the Markdown stuff is that they never go down, and often like your static site is really cheap to host. WordPress is like $10 a month or more. Well, static is just you pay for the URL, $10 per URL per year.
Yeah.
And it's usually not hackable. You know, have people uploading odd files to your WordPress website. That's some viruses.
I've got a couple WordPress sites, but
If you take a WordPress website, pull all the styling CSS and convert it to a static website pretty easily. Each WordPress, this is a theme I like, and just copy the CSS over.
understood.
You know,
And if like you're doing a creative blog post, and you just
kind of Markdown.
blog
Mhm.
directly.
Yeah. Their blog template will basically have all the stuff for you, so you just need to style it the way you want to, but it'll have all like it'll do the list page and the detail page and all that other stuff for you, so it's all set up. You just want to style it, maybe add in some. I don't know if it has any built-in search because there's nothing like built into Astro that handles search. So the algorithm is pretty easy to implement on a site like that, so I recommend that. Cool. Anybody else? All right. To answer your question about hackathons. Okay, so we're not talking Astro, we're talking hackathons. The one that's happening in September, you basically go to our meetup for Eventbrite and just show up, like say you're coming and show up. There's not like a registration. The one happening in November, there will be a registration and a nominal fee. If you really can't pay the fee, you can always reach out to us. But it's gonna be like $5, just because in that one we have very limited space, we've got prizes and everything, and we don't want to like kind of hand that. We need to have a kind of sense of how many people are coming, etc. So like it's not a we're making money off the deal kind of fee. Just kind of you're invested. But that one, you can look for details kind of soon. I think it'll be posted. That one is on November 2nd. So this one's on a weekday evening. It's short. It's just kind of like this is actually Caitlin, who's on the executive committee with me. She's running this, and she's going to be bringing speakers and stuff that help you do this kind of quick. It's like a quick hackathon type event. The other one is a full day, like Saturday, like 9 to 5 kind of thing, and that one will have prizes and stuff like that. So that'll be more details coming soon. If you're on the Slack, it'll be posted there, or the email list.
Cool. To piggyback off of that, I mean, what exactly is it? Like, what are you hacking? What are you using?
So, I don't know as much details about the September 17th one because Caitlin's doing that, but the one later, we did this last year as well. Basically, you come in, you either come in with a team or you join a team when you get there. You don't have to have a team. If you have people you want to team up with, you can come in with them in advance. And basically, we're going to give you kind of a theme of what you're going to build an application around. And then this one's going to be around housing. So that's kind of like why this is a lead up to the later hackathon, the one that's coming up in a few weeks. The theme will be housing for the one on November 2nd. It could be anything from like, say, something like hacking something for good, for like help people with the housing, a bit of a housing crisis in Central Florida. So you could do something like that, or you could even just say, hey, I want to build a real estate app for making money off something. You know, it doesn't matter as long as it's housing related. So you and your team would have the day to build something. At the end of the day, sometime around like, I think 5 o'clock or so, we will kind of, you have to stop coding, you're gonna present what you built, and then we're gonna judges will pick the winners based on, so you would prizes off that. So I don't know the details on the prizes. I do know we are gonna be giving away a decent amount of money, considering it's just a day, to the winning teams. So yeah, so that's the idea. Spend all day with the team hacking on something, show off your app, potentially win money.
So that's in November.
That's in November. The one in September, it's not there. I don't think we have any prizes for that one. It's more of like just kind of a fun little interactive type of thing, as opposed to like, usually it's a speaker like this. This one's going to be kind of more interactive, so you bring the laptop, you can hack along with whatever that's going on.
Okay, so so you're still building something in the September one, or like?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
More details on the website.
I think right now for September is housing crisis, but once they change the label, you know, here we go.
No, it's going to be housing crisis. So the one in September is housing crisis, because we do have a couple of speakers who are going to be kind of talking about stuff, as well as a kind of a preset hackathon. But so Caitlin is with DataKind, which I don't know if you've heard of them. They're like a not-for-profit that does a lot of things like around using data for kind of for benefit of the community kind of thing. And so they're going to be running that kind of hackathon to kind of around the housing crisis. The one in November is still going to be around housing, but it does not have to be like, it's not a preset thing. You can build whatever you want as long as it's related to housing.
So are you, I'm gonna assume you're able to like pull off of APIs. I mean, you're getting data from somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's up to you. Yeah, it's, you know, we're not providing you any data or anything for the November one. Whatever you want to build, you build. So you can I think if you really, really want to win, come in with a team and kind of think about what you want to build beforehand. But I don't want to dissuade anybody from coming. Some of the teams that won, I know in the past, came in with no team and they just got assigned. Like they kind of joined up with somebody and built something really cool. So yeah, actually, it was with Stately that they built something last year.
Yeah, last year's hackathon was all about safety. If you don't know what that is, it's like a visual way to like map. It's like workflows, right? So
It tells you how to get from one state to another, like the traffic lights, that's an example, green, yellow, red, etc.
So if you map out your logic using like this diagram tool that Stately offers, or you can just code it out in JavaScript, and then that like within JavaScript there's a management library called Astro, and that translated from code straight to the content state. It translated from JavaScript to like a diagram. So then you can just like map out, okay, I want this app to do these specific things, and then you just plug it into the app. Yeah, it all works. But there's more to it. But we taught people how to use it, showed them like a quick way how to learn X data if they weren't familiar with it. And then throughout the day, they got together with the team and they were like, okay, what should we build? Like, I don't know. I think like Ticketmaster was one of them where they like rename it and called it something else.
Didn't some guy make a music app? He had a whole setup with like a keyboard and everything.
I'm sorry?
What was the name?
The winning one was a GitHub. What's the name of this GitHub?
Like a GitHub, like it's classified issues and stuff like that. People can make games and things like that.
Yeah, so I'm using Tetris, and then as you go through the different actions of Tetris, like when you rotate the blocks or whatnot, like you can see it update in real time on what the app is actually going through. So it's like, I don't know, it's, there's pictures on
Somewhere.
somewhere on the last week of it. No, this isn't very helpful, but I was encourage you all to like go and get the experience.
Yeah.
kind of like being, in my head, hackathons are kind of like starting a new job, like you're getting onboarded in a team, and then like right then and there, you're like, okay, let's do something, let's build something, let's see how we get along with other people with different mindsets and different perspectives.
Yeah, having hosted a few of those at Blitz College, I can tell you that they're great. People really enjoy them. And we're usually working with people who are considerably less experienced than the average person here. But they team up maybe with somebody who does know a lot more, somebody from a group like this. And it's been very good. They've learned a lot and got some experience, sort of facing down a real problem. It isn't just in textbooks.
Yeah. And I mean, that is a good point. That's for anybody. Like, you don't have to have a ton of experience. You can join up on a team where you get different tasks. Like if you're relatively new, then you kind of divvy up the tasks based on experience level and stuff like that. So don't be afraid to join it if you don't have a lot of experience. So the one in September, again, is just an evening thing. You're not gonna build like some super cool app. It's just not enough time. But it's gonna be fun. The one in November, hopefully build something really, really cool. You can still use Stately, even though you're not required to use Stately this time. Huh? So the one in November is going to be housing. So housing in general, not housing crisis, housing. Huh?
What's the September one?
It's a housing crisis one, specifically. So because it's a data kind thing, it's more about doing something more like community oriented, using data for benefit of the community kind of thing, because they're not for profit. They only do that kind of stuff. So, yeah. So they'll both be fun. Hopefully you'll come out both. So, any other hackathon questions? I guess, or ODevs questions? I guess this is just like, yeah. All right. Then if not, that's it. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, serious question. Is it GIF or GIF?
Oh. Is it router?
What should I say?
It's definitely GIF,
It's GIF.
because all the variations of that acronym are like Giphy and all of those stuff.
Oh, I said Jiffy.
You say Jiffy?
Just watch the video.
I mean, maybe it's like the G garage.
Wow. That's a good one. You don't want this, Mike. Do you, Dwayne?
No.
Okay. All right, we have Dwayne, who's also a big community member of ODev events. He's going to tell you about a recent project that he has done personally, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. This work kind of. I'll get into it.
Okay.
Steve White has the founder or the creators of it stated it should be pronounced Jif.
What do they know?
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get into it
Is what he said.
because that is exactly like where I was starting off with. So Jenny kind of stole my thunder, but it's fine. It's fine. You can still
However,
go with it.
many people pronounce Jif with a hard G like this.
Everybody can hear me though, right? We're good? All right, cool. So real quick before I start any of these things off, please make some noise for David and Jenny for putting together this. Make some noise for Brian for presenting. It's pretty dope. And then make some noise for yourself for coming out and supporting some really dope community efforts and stuff.
First meetup I've ever been to that served sushi.
How fancy is that? Where else are you gonna get that? You know what I'm saying?
That was memorable. Yeah.
Yes.
And whoever voted on the survey, you can blame for like the next food, next month.
So, all right. So yeah. So basically, the whole GIF thing, right? So regardless of how you say, for me personally, I go by.
YouTube video.
How do you say that? Exactly. So me, but you know what? Let me see if this works. Oh, my thing is no. It was too long. Hold on. I'm just gonna do this. My connection. I'm just gonna delete it. We're gonna go Old school is gonna look right live. All right, so my thing is, why not both? Right? Say it however you want. A lot of times it's just ringing in your head anyway. It really does not matter, right? And so, hi, I'm Dwayne, a JavaScript developer advocate at Vonage, and I welcome you to take a little rabbit hole trip that I took recently, and so I'm going to take you along with that ride. Now, as part of my job, I actually write blog posts. So it's not just all going to conventions and being rock stars or whatever you may think or whatever. And so I write a lot of blog posts. And I was actually in the middle of writing a blog post, and it's for a demo I created. And it's like a feature that is easier to show than just say. Because I'm the type of person, I don't trust what you say. I need you to show me. So I created a demo where you can actually see the thing working. But as far as the blog post, I didn't want to write something. I wanted to actually show something. So I wanted to like do a screen record and then turn that into a GIF. And I did some searching, and by the way, I'm not sharing my screen. Hold on, my bad. Wait, give me a second. I forgot. I have to share a screen here. All in the. Give me a second. Okay, give me a second. Let me just I gotta share this for the recording, the live stream. Oh, if you ever want to check out some live stream events, I created a website, otech.events. Again, I create a lot of random projects. Internet holds up. So as you can see, like right here, we're streaming live. And so I have a bunch of upcoming events you can check out here. So we got a bunch of stuff coming up. And that recordings also show up here as well. So you can check that out. All right, I need to log in. Give me a second. Yes. I work at Vonage. It's what we do. Oh, it's literally my job. That's. Oh yeah, I got you. It's literally what we do.
That's a nice camera setup you got there. Does that follow you?
It can, yes. Is it doing it now? Oh no, it's not. Yeah, it can, and you can set it up for that. All right, I need to share my screen. I should probably do this. I'm hearing myself. Got that one. Cool. All right, I need to share that. Let's go with the entire screen. What could happen? All right. All right, cool. All right. This is what happens when you're like a one-person show. All right, there we go. Cool. Yes, awesome. All right. Sorry? Oh, no, that's cool. I'm just going to share the screen because you don't need to see this. It's fine. All right. So back again. So yeah, I write a bunch of blog posts, and sometimes it takes a lot of time. And I wanted to be able to show this feature. And then I think our CMS, it may or might not be able to show video, but I know it can do like images. So that's why I wanted to convert it to a GIF. And I did some searching, and I couldn't really find. I know Giphy does stuff, and I couldn't really find a lot of them like sketchy websites. So I was like, you know what? I'm a developer. I can make it. Because how hard could that be, right? We're going to find out. So I created this tool, and this is on my website, which is actually what I am doing this whole presentation on. It's called mylight.work.
What is it?
Mylight.work, like my light work. Is a place where I do, let me show that. Mylight.work. And so, yeah, so it's actually built with Astro. And so light as in tools I made, web components are amazing. Lightning talk slides, like what we're just doing, and like random other things that I make. And then you can check out some of the other stuff I built. All right, cool. Now let's get back. So here is the actual thing that I made. And so I'm gonna show you a demo and then kind of the different parts I use to create it. Cool? You learn some new web APIs and things. All right, so you can see here I have an option of either dragging a video here or selecting from the computer. So I'm gonna drag a video, and it's going to be down there. All right, so anybody familiar with Yassine Bey, formerly known as Mos Def, like one of the greatest artists of all time? So whenever he went to Japan, and seeing his experience was like life-changing for me. So anytime I get a chance to go to Japan, I kind of watch that and try to relive it as much as possible. So it kind of gives me like a framework. And so I have like random snippets. Even on my social media, like the pin thing is a clip of him in Japan. So you notice when I go into the area, it turns green, or I'm not. So that kind of denotes like, hey, you're in the area. All right, and then I have like these little sliders here where you can go ahead and kind of like get your clip together. So however you want it to be. And you can see these are the start and end updates with the positioning of it. So you can kind of say like, all right, this is about like 8 seconds. And then you can also play it. I don't think I shared audio. It's fine. But trust me, it's playing, you can hear the audio. Doesn't matter because it's a GIF. And then you can set like the width of it you want. Right now I have it just set for 300 as a default and then the frames per second. All right. And now we're going to convert it. And I have a little dialogue that pops up. It has a little converting thing. And eventually, there we go. And it's weird because like it may look like it's slowing, but then it just goes from like 20 to 100. I don't know. That's pretty. And then you can just like download it. And it downloads. And then you can go and check it out again right here. And there it is. It's mad tiny. Zoomed out. You can check it out there. Cool. So that is basically that. Right? So luckily that worked. And then you can close it. And if you want, you can select from the computer. Well, no, I put the captions there because accessibility, I'm a big fan. You know what I'm saying? But the original video, no, it doesn't remove captions. Like this doesn't do that.
Oh, the video already had.
Yeah, the video already had captions. Yeah.
I thought it was.
Put it on. No, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be because I was thinking like changing focus.
Oh, well maybe you could like. I'll show you the stuff I use it to build with, and you can do it with one of the tools. And we'll
You can burn captions into a video. You can do that generate the JPEG from there.
Yeah, I'll show you a tool that will allow you to do that. Oh, yeah, I can show you. Because I do it now for, okay, we'll get that.
If you were able to control that.
Yeah, yes, I will show you how you can do that. All right, so yeah, demo time, hammer time, awesome. All right, cool. So let's talk about some of the things I use to make it. So the drag and drop files, is the drag and drop APIs and the files APIs that I use. And so I have some links here to some pretty good resources you can check out. And so here's one from web.dev. My internet is mad slow. Well, I'm using a hotspot and I'm streaming on it. So that's giving me some grace. I'm live streaming on my phone. All right, so here is a really good one, the drag and drop API. So some resources you can check out. Shout out to Rachel Andrew, very, very dope individual. And so you can see they have all these different things you can check out. And also this other one, it's another web dev article. And so how to use it. And this is pretty cool. Like you're dragging a file and it's using another API to access the file. You can like edit it. So it's almost like as if you're like editing files on your desktop, but you can do it in the browser on your computer and save it and everything. So that's that. Then I also have for the files API, for the file API, this goes to MDN. And it kind of shows you how to use the files. So that's basically what I did in my demo, is that I took, so what happens is when I select a video, it's then taking the files. So it recognized that you did a drop on that section. And then I use the file API to be able to make a blob of the contents of that file to then show it in a video player. So that's how those come together. Cool. All right.
So you have a blog, so you get a blog and it generates those customizing elements at the bottom.
No, I will show you how to do that. That's coming up. But that's just for the video itself. So it takes the file and it recognizes a video file, like MP4 in this case, and then it takes that, makes it a blob of the content, so then I can then load it into a video tag and show it on the actual
as like a type of embed embedded element.
Video, yep. All right, so that's that. So those are those, cool. All right, then the double slider is what you're talking about. It's literally just two range inputs. So input is like one of the greatest HTML elements ever. You can just change like one little attribute and you have like a million different use cases. So if you set the type to range, you have like a slider. What I wanted to do was have two sliders. So I just took the two sliders, made them the same width, and then I did a position absolute. So then they would collapse on top of each other. And then you target, it's like the handle part of it or something. I just made that Z index like 2 and I raised it. And so that way I can kind of drag it there. Honestly, I just like looked it up and there was like a stack blitz or something, like or a stack overflow. And I just looked at that and took that. So
If you want to do a triple slider,
triple slider, you can do the same thing, except that you'd have to now mark where they are on the actual thing. So, because with this, I have to know where this handle is and where this slider is as well. And then it's kind of like mark where they are. So it was kind of a pain because when I did, because one of the things I had to like take in consideration is that let's say I move this here. Now, when I move this close to here, do I want to be able to go over it? Or do I just want to push this other one over? You know what I'm saying? And so I had to think about all these different things. It was honestly a pain, but so that leads me to, so anything that where I'm like, this is super cool, but it's a pain to do. A lot of times I'm like, well, I did it once. Should I, and I don't really want to do it again. Oh, I have this MDM link. So if you want to check out more about input type range, so you can find that.
That's pretty slick to be able to push it forward like that. That's cool.
It was a whole lot of like just trial and error and making things, it was terrible, but I got it to work. So when things are like, can be terrible and I want to just reuse, worry about that terribleness again, I turn things into web components. And so I'm thinking maybe I should turn this double slider into, how many people are familiar with web components? Oh, you haven't spoken to me ever before then, huh? Because everything I talk about is web components. So basically, to take that double slider and encapsulating it into an HTML element. So that way I can just put in that HTML element, just like you would do like a H1 tag or a video tag or whatever. Put a little bit of JavaScript so the browser can understand what that thing is that you just put in there, and it just works. It's kind of amazing. Web components are dope. All right. Actually, I have a lot of blog posts. One of the first links I had is a link to, again, I write blog posts. And so you can see here, this is all the stuff I wrote for my company at Vonage, Adventure with the Road. And so you can see I've been writing a bunch of stuff. And a lot of them are about web components. So yeah, web components. I did like a whole series on how you can use web components in the Vue, Angular, React, Vanilla. I'm eventually going to do like Svelte at some point. But yeah, you can do them in all sorts of things. So yeah, here's React, Angular, Vue, and but yeah, neither here nor there.
Is a link to that is on your blog?
Yep, it's like the second slide.
What was the name of the something.org?
Oh, mylight.work. So it's like, yeah. Cool. So yeah, so I'm thinking about making it web components. All right, cool.
Have you tried Enhance yet?
Huh?
Have you tried it?
Shout out to the folks at Enhance. They're very cool people. The thing is, I think you have to go through like, to use it, I think it's like an AWS thing. I know they're HTML first. I haven't got a chance to actually play around with it, but they're real. Enhance.dev is a really cool site. So yeah, I met the creators. They're really cool people. All right. So now FFmpeg, this is like the secret sauce behind everything. Has anybody experienced the greatness of FFmpeg? So you know what I'm saying? You all know, right? It's amazing. So you can check out the site. And so it's a complete cross-platform solution to record, convert, and stream audio and video. And what I do is a lot of the converting stuff here. And normally it's a like a command line thing that you do, right? You use it a command line?
No, I'm using it.
So you're making like to your backend or something and calling it? Cool. How about you? Command line?
Okay.
Command line. All right.
Because I've seen is that you're trying to embed multiple subtitles into a video.
Am I with it?
So you can have more than one audio track.
Oh yeah, you can do all sorts of things. So let me show you this wiki. That's also linked here. And so this has all sorts of things that you can actually do with it. So all the different coding stuff, hardware acceleration, grabbing, capturing, so you can do screen captures, you can do all sorts of things. And then they have all this filtering stuff. Like some of this stuff I don't understand, but it's cool. You can create like a video slideshow from images. You can do all this stuff. Like it's pretty in depth. So
I was gonna point out real quick, because of how the slideshow is, we can't see the URL at the top of your slideshow here.
oh, that's fine. You can go to my website. It'll be right there.
All right.
Yeah.
Like,
mylight.work. Yes, everything's there. Okay. And then so you use it as in the back end, right? You use it as a CLI. What about doing it in the browser? WASM. It's amazing. And so that is literally what I'm doing with this application now. So all that's done in the browser. It's not sending it to a server, it's not doing all that stuff. All that rendering and converting was done in the browser. Kind of amazing. So I have the site here. So I have a pretty cool website where you can check out FFmpeg, WASM, and yeah, it's pretty. I heard somebody mention TypeScript, so you can see a lot of TypeScript stuff there. And they have all these libraries. Again, this stuff makes my brain hurt. It's a lot. And so I found this blog post from Giphy, from their engineering team, because I was like, I just want to just convert this thing to a GIF. I don't need to know all these other random things. So they have really, I call it Giphy because again, gift. So that's just me. But I accept everyone.
I didn't interrupt. I just wanted to put it up in the meeting.
Oh yeah, but again,
you spelled it out.
Yeah, exactly. So I go by Giphy because I go by GIF because gift. All right. So I have this blog post. So the engineering team at Giphy had a really good article. I don't know what happened with the article, but the good folks over at archive.org saved it, and so I have a link to that, and you can check it out. And they go through from going from a GIF to a video, but I was more interested in going from, so they have GIF to video, but I wanted to go the opposite, video to GIF. And so they go through and they kind of explain all the different things, all the different terminologies that's used in here. So like this is like something seek, something I forgot, it's like something seek, I don't know, whatever. And then you go in like 61 seconds, and then the time of it is going to be like 2.5 seconds. And then this is the input file, and then you want a GIF, and then that's the name of the GIF that you output. Pretty cool. So they go ahead and break through everything. They call it seek. I don't know. Whatever. And so they go through and you kind of read through it, because again, ain't nobody got time for that. So I just kind of kept on scrolling. And I used, what was it, to give you pro tips? Pretty cool. I think I used this one probably. And so this is the command line. With the awesomeness of FFmpeg WASM, you can just run that in your browser. And that's basically what I did. Cool. And that's pretty much it. I want to thank y'all. And again, if you want to check out our website, that is just on mylight.work. I do a radio show at the illustrious WPRK 91.5 FM on Saturdays. So if you want to find out more about the radio show, knowbetterhiphop.com. I do a study session on Sundays because, again, my weekends and week is not full enough. So I do like a study session. This is where I actually try to get some work done. So untilit.works, and then my website is lifelong.dev. And that is it. Thank you very much. I own way too many domains, and normally I buy them like towards the end of the year and the beginning of the year, and I cringe every time I get the notice that, oh, we got bills coming up. And I'm like, oh, I go through. I'm like, no, you're not using this. Yeah, I don't look at those things. I don't look at those things. I don't look at those such things.
The name chief starts a new startup that's like domains only.
Oh, I have to,
$1, $2 cheaper.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did the .com ones, did they raise the price?
I think they're going up like in October or something.
Already.
Okay.
They got like $2 for them now.
Yeah.
And that's why I get the weird ones. So I have like .work, .works, .dev. Brain worms.
So this slideshow, I'm on your website.
I haven't made it active yet. It's not. Yeah. I just did it here because I don't want people, sneaking.
Once it to show up, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm actually going to go and do that right now. So
Okay.
so after school.
Is that what you're saying?
Yep, it's an Astro site. So all the whole black. And so, but yeah, my last talk I gave here was on the Vue Transitions API. So you get all that stuff out the box. It's kind of amazing. So I use it for slide sheets. All right, cool. Thank you. Huh? Oh, these are from Square. I went to that conference.
All right, we have some giveaways for your raffle.
Is that ice cream?
Next time. Well, you're the only one that voted ice cream, so you're gonna get for the next meetup. Yeah, you won the raffle for the possible water bottle. And then suggest we're like, we're starting on sushi. The people from the last meetup were like, we want sushi. So I'm like, okay, we're sharing sushi. Yeah, so little things like that. Okay, I have a stately notebook. This is a company that I work for. I absolutely love their notebooks. Not biased at all. I need to pick a raffle winner. Did you figure out?
Yeah, just you want me to do
Would I be able to bug you about the
We're making this a lot more complicated than it should be.
how to get that working?
Basically, I'm going to
Wow.
show you this
So,
JavaScript app.
One of the things, one of the parts that I'm having to
winner.
work on is essentially I'm having to stream a
Okay.
GoPro, like a live GoPro
No, we're
feed,
not doing that.
using like an RTMP server. So like I have to link it to my phone, and then the phone goes live and sends it to our RTMP server. And then so I'm listening. I have like a, I forget what it's called, but there's something I have to run on, like a program I have to run on my computer to like create the server. And then that'll create the server, and then I will, in my application, I have to put in the link for the RTMP server, which essentially is my IP. And I can add like an ending part to it as well. And then if I put in that RTMP server address, like that I can also, if I put it into a VLC player, I can load the live, I can load the stream. However, when I try to run it in like a, using FFmpeg in my next application, it always gives me like, it's just like, I think it's like, like the server, hey, it's taking too long. And I was trying to pull up like the, the errors that I was getting. I put in ChatGPT and I was
Here
like,
are
what's going on here? Like, I don't know why it's not working.
participants of who was interested in winning a stately.ai notebook. And drum roll, everyone. The winner is Jonathan. Okay, thank you for accepting the award. Let me see, what am I doing?
No, it removed.
I have some fun trivia for you all. Whoever answers get a prize.
Add me to myself, no change you'll see. I'm a number, but not zero. What could I be? No, so what value in JavaScript, when you add it to itself, results in the same thing? No. Correct. Yeah.
I'll take clerk socks, sure. Can we know the prizes before we answer?
No, this is part of the fun. Okay,
All right.
one more riddle.
One more.
We get about 3 prizes at these events that we get from conferences. So
Who do you have? How many over?
there's just one, there's 2 left.
2. Okay, so basically, first, there's many answers for this. So first one to shout it out. All right. How do you sort an array without mutating it? Many different options. No cheating. You could map it. How would you do it?
You have a variant value as a map, and you then return it.
But mapping preserves the order. So
Well, I mean, you would have to like take each value. I guess you wouldn't go to group.
Keep thinking. You're getting not sort, not sort, you get it?
yes. Oh yeah. All right. So maybe some of you, or most of you, by the looks of it, don't know. But if you do array.sort, it mutates the array, so it changes the original array. So you might run into a lot of nasty bugs if you do this. There was a new method added recently that fixes this, but there's also some techniques to make sure that I'll give you a hint, to make sure that you make a copy of the array before you sort.
JSON parse, JSON stringify, make an object.
I mean, technically correct, but the array might have non-serializable values, so.
I guess a function in there or something.
Yeah, so not that. Anyone?
I used that method recently. That's fine.
It contains the word sorts, if that helps.
No, I did erase.
Two sorted. All right, yeah, that's one answer. So you're right.
Alright. You get 2 choices. You get a used bag, React Summit bag, used bag. So it's reusable for your groceries or shoes or whatever you want. And it comes with a little nice button. React Summit. These conferences happen in Amsterdam and in New York, so if you decide to go to one, reach out to us, we can try to get you a free ticket. Because we've spoken at them before. Or another state we can go.
All right. Anyone want a clue for this one? All right, the clue is on Dwayne's shirts.
You can do a spread.
Yes, you already got a prize. All right, there's another technique besides the spread operator. How else can you do it?
You just said 2 sorted spread.
I made it, thank you. You can buy it on my website.
Oh, sure?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
All right, I'm going to type very slowly, and the first one is shouted out.
Very slowly.
Anyone?
Slice.
Yeah, there you go. Because you could do this. All right, it's okay. You know what? We'll do a lesson on this in the next meeting. Yeah.
So
they both get prizes? Yeah. So you could do this. You know, you could do this, right? You could do array.toSorted. And there's also, you were close with the map thing. You could just do like that. And then that creates a new array too. So there's a few different techniques you could use.
Yeah.
Why would you use any of the others if you got 2?
Older browsers, yes. Or browsers where it's not compatible. Older versions of Node, etc.
Yeah. 2 sort probably can convert us to your bills.
Yeah, but this would be the one that you should use if you can. But there's all these other ones. But hopefully now you know that dot sort mutates the array. So go in your code bases, search for that, try to fix that before it ends up.
.NET just creates a copy. Basically, you just create.
Yeah. So all of these create a copy.
I definitely have.
That's a copy. That's another copy. That's like Dwayne's shirt. Sort about that. And then cool.
try to find
Yeah.
the error code I had,
Yeah.
and then
Would you like a, use bag React,
I will.
reusable bag with a button on the side? That you can put on anything you like?
Oh, I think you say used bag.
No, it's a used bag.
I gotta use that in the car.
I just talked clearly.
Awesome, well, congratulations. You got your use bag, not used.
Oh, my slides are on the website now. I just pushed it, so you can watch that later.
If you come to the next meetup, this is our next prize that we're doing. It's a syntax, what is it called? Cooler, koozie, but it's like metal or stainless steel, so it doesn't rust, and you can put cans in it. And it's always around it, so like you'll never walk off the syntax. And if you don't know what syntax is, I believe it's a podcast. Yeah. I'm gonna do it. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.